So let's just go straight into it, shall we? I wanted to prepare for this talk, so I took some Russian lessons. So bear with me. So when you go to a Russian school, then you have different levels, right? But you have to learn the greetings before you can pass on to the next level. So the first thing that you learn is how to read the spider. So this says something like "Уважаемые и любимые товарищи, здравствуйте." Thank you. I hope that you're as enthusiastic as we progress through the different levels that we have. After that, we have level 2. It's a little bit more informal. Доброе утро. Not too formal, not too informal, just normal, right? And then you go to level 3. Всем привет. With the Russian smiley. It's like, this is something that only Russian people do. There's nowhere else in the world that anybody understands why you're missing the colon. Then you go to здорово, ребята. And this is just before you graduate from Russian school. And then it's like, okay, so you should sit like this, cigarette, the Adidas and everything. Dicho. Let's move on. So you might be wondering, where am I? Кто такой? My name is Carlos León. Can you please volume down a little bit?
No.
My name is Carlos León. Originally, I'm from Colombia, 28 years old. I'm an independent consultant, and I help companies with DevOps transitions, cloud automation, CI/CD pipelines, research and development, greenfield stuff, the whole thing. So throughout the years, I've been gathering a lot of experience working with multiple customers through different consultancy agreements, and with the experience that I've gained and with all the war stories that I've gathered, I want to come to you guys today and talk about an insight of the Russian culture, DevOps culture, and the transition and how hard that can be, or how easy that could be, right? So let's move on. I came to Russia for the very first time on the 7th of November 2012. Back then I was young, beautiful, and full of life. I remember it was the 7th of November, and I came like this with a very Colombian pullover, and I arrived at the airport, and I passed through passport control after they asked me a bunch of questions. And I had no idea about Russian, the language, Cyrillic, the culture, nothing at all. I had a couple of ideas, but not that much. So I go to the bus stop. I need to take the bus to the metro and then into the city. And as I am waiting at the bus station, I'm wearing my Colombian hat. So you might picture this. I'm 7th of November. It's about 2 p.m. It's a little bit rainy. It's really, really, really cold. And I'm wearing only a pullover, my Colombian jacket, which is not useful at all in Russia. And I'm with my backpack. And I'm shivering. And the guy next to me, tall, blonde Russian guy, he looks down on me and he asks, "Are you cold?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Welcome to Russia." That was my welcome to Russia for real, I swear. This is not a joke, this happened for real. So when that happened, little did I know about the whole Russian thing, the country, the culture, the language, everything. So if you imagine me, Colombian coming to Russia, it's oh, Colombia, tropical country, warm weather, beautiful, pretty much chunga changa, right? Am I right? So let me tell you something about stereotypes. It feels like chunga changa, but it doesn't look like chunga changa. Okay, maybe some trees in the city and whatever. This is the city where I come from, by the way. It's Barranquilla, a big city in the north, very industrial. There's not a lot to see, but the weather is beautiful, the food is great, people are amazing. Another part of Barranquilla, my city, you can see how in the past used to be glorious, and then corruption came in, and then everything went to hell. So this is a little bit of how Colombia can be seen from the perspective of somebody that has never been to Colombia, and now from the perspective of someone from Colombia that has never been to Russia. this is what we think that Russia is like. It's like, oh, so you come from Russia. Hello, Dimitri, where are you from? Oh, Russia. Ah, so you must live in a house like this. We think that everybody lives in a house like this. Yeah, they're stereotypes, right? So the other stereotype that we have in Colombia about Russia, who can guess what that is? It's not vodka, by the way. Bears? No, we didn't hear about bears. We also didn't know about balalaika. I had no idea about that. Maybe the Cossacks, but... Does anybody know who this guy is? Yeah. So this is from the Rocky movie, and this is supposed to be a Russian guy. It's a fallacy, because this guy is not even Russian. He's Swedish. He's Swedish, his name, it doesn't matter, but anyways, he's not even Russian. So he can tell you a lot about the stereotypes. This is a more accurate picture of Russia. This is Lake Baikal. Did anybody today come from outside of Moscow, by the way? Can you raise your hands? Wow, that's a lot of people. Did you come here just for the conference? Raise your hands. Amazing, thank you so much, guys. Very nice, very nice. Yeah. So it's not easy to gather with fellow nerds to talk about tech, because these events don't happen as often. So it's great that everybody's coming to support these kind of events. As a community, as an IT community, we need these kind of things. So, coming back to topic, the reason why I'm talking about the stereotypes and the culture features of a country or of a society is because most of the time it's seen as something natural that just happened, that just is there for a reason that we don't understand, but that we just do it. For example, for me, it was really difficult to learn the Russian ways about certain things. For example, when you're going to greet someone, you need to take your glove off, otherwise it's considered as rude. And also, when you want to ask for something, I don't know if you guys speak English, but the way that, I don't know if all of you speaking, I know that most of you do, but the ones that don't, I don't know if you know that in English, or in most of the romantic languages, if you want to ask for something, you ask, could I please? Would you mind? You don't want to bother the person, right? Could I please have a glass of water? Would you be able to do this favor for me? Whereas in Russia, it's like, give me pancake, give me soup, go and shut up. It's like, for someone that was not grown into the Russian culture, this is seen as extremely rude, but it's just a feature of the culture. Because for you guys, this is how you do. I remember once I was here in Moscow 4 years ago, lost. And so I can gather a bit of some Russian words, right? Like I can get around Russia if I'm lost. So I asked this lady, excuse me, lady, in Russian, but I'm saying it not in English, but I asked, excuse me, lady, would you know where is the street Palyanka or whatever? And she was like, yes, I know. And I'm like, so, where is it? Yeah, sure, go this and this and this. I was so lost. I was like, wow, there's like a cultural abyss between us both. Anyways, this is the kind of stuff that you don't see. Another thing, for example, is time perception. Do we have any Latinos in the room or any Hispanic people from Spain? There was another Carlos in the speakers list. He definitely must be from Spain or from Latin America. Nobody? Okay. Do we have any Germans in the room? German, Austria? Roman, I'm looking at you. Yes, thank you. So, sorry, I need to use you for this part of the talk. I'm really sorry. But if you imagine, have you heard that the Germans and the Swiss and the Austrians, they're very strict when it comes to time. Time is seen as an asset that you share with somebody when you care, and when you need something to happen. It's seen as something that you need to respect because it's valuable for the other person. This is the understanding of time. But what if I told you that it's not like that everywhere in the world? For example, in Colombia, time is not seen as an asset, but only as a guideline. Let me tell you an example. You move to Colombia, you are a European person, Western or Eastern European, you have some sort of perception about time, that time is valuable, that time is something to be respected, and so you move to Colombia and you're super happy, and your friend says, okay, we're gonna have dinner tonight, it's Friday, we're gonna have dinner at 7 p.m. at the restaurant. And being the Russian that you are, you're like, okay, you arrive at 7 o'clock at the restaurant, and nobody's there. 7:15, 7:30, 8, 9:30, 10, and people start arriving. And somehow you're 3 hours later, if you manage to stay there, because other people just walk away. But in Colombia, this is something normal. For us, it's not seen as disrespectful. It's not seen as somebody that doesn't have their life figured out. It's just the way that we perceive time. For us, when we grew up, this is how we saw people interacting with time. Not so straight, more like a guideline. And it goes the same way the other way around. I went to dinner with my Russian friends when I used to spend some time here, and we ordered some food, and everybody else's food arrives, and also mine. But a friend of mine was still waiting for her food, so everybody started eating. And me being the polite person that I was, because my grandma told me that you have to wait until everybody has food on the table before you start eating. So I'm just like waiting and waiting and waiting. And then my friend was like, hey dude, why are you not eating? And I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for your plate to arrive. And she was like, wow, that's so polite of you. I didn't order any food. Woman, I've been waiting for 15 minutes now to start eating, I'm starving. So, and then she said the most beautiful thing. She was like, Carlos, that was so polite of you. But I don't understand why you're always so late. I'm like, what does it have to do with anything? She said, yeah, well, being late is impolite. I'm like, what? What? I don't understand. Here you have another cultural shock. Because of course I was the Colombian that I was back then, and I didn't understand that in Europe and in other parts of the world, time is seen as something you need to respect. Don't waste my time. Alright, so can you think of anything else that belongs to the Russian culture that you are not aware of it? Anything at all? Something that you grew up doing and you just do it because, and you don't have a big reason to not do it? This is something that if you don't have anybody that comes outside of your culture, you won't be able to see, because you're in autopilot all the time. You need somebody to help you see these kind of things. Alright, so I know that this seems a little bit away from topic, but stick with me for a couple more minutes and everything is going to click, alright? So for the companies that are still wondering, hey, are we still on time to do DevOps? Is it still a good time? Well, maybe yes, maybe not. But before we go into those details, let's first take a look at the current status of the industry. And how are we developing software today? How many software developers do we have in the room today? Can you please raise your hands? Software developer, programista? There we go. Operations. Do we have operations here? Alright, so it's less than half of the crowd. And operators, I saw that like developers raise their hands, operators raise their hands, and there are hands that never raised. So I don't know what kind of role you fulfill. Managers, do we have decision makers in the room? Here we go. Oh, all of them, okay, yeah. We have a one-man army right here. Yeah, so if you look at the process of developing software, it goes something like this. You have some business requirements, right? Somebody comes with an idea, oh, I have a great idea that is going to make us millions, and then you got the requirements, you design something, develop, test, and then you deploy and go into some sort of maintenance mode, right? And this is more commonly known as waterfall. By the way, this is a waterfall here in Russia. I forgot the name, but it's beautiful. It's definitely, this country has a lot to offer. So the software development industry understood that this process was broken because these requirements were being gathered by somebody that is not close to the technicalities of the implementation. The design is done by somebody else, by some architect that sits in a different room that has no understanding of either business or technicalities. They have a high-level overview, but it's not really as deep and as functional as it should be. And then the development is done by somebody else. And the problem with this is that if you're a developer, you're being told at this stage what to do, and you didn't have a saying in what needs to happen, in what is going to happen with your product. It's basically, here, write this line of code. You're basically a monkey coder, and to be honest, that's kind of sad. So the industry understood, okay, this process is pretty crap, let's move on and try to make something better. And so they came up with Agile and Scrum and different Agile methodologies. By the way, is anybody here working with waterfall still? Like it feels like the company says we do Scrum or we do Agile, but it feels pretty much like waterfall. All right, so at the end of the talk, I'm going to be like around the corner, come here, I'm going to offer you a hug and tell you that everything is going to be all right. So let's take a look at Scrum and see what's up. So there is some planning, but this time the team is involved, right? We have a Scrum Master, we have a PO, and we have the lead developers that are taking care of making sure that the business requirements are aligned with the technical possibilities. And then we have design, test, build, accept, and finally deploy. But instead of waiting 3 years for this whole process to happen, we're breaking it into smaller chunks and we're shipping faster so that we can get a faster feedback from the market and that we can alter the course if need be. There is a problem with this approach though, and it is at this stage when you want to deploy that you have a bottleneck. Does anybody know what the bottleneck is? What is it? Let's hear it. What? But what is a bottleneck? Yeah, I'm not asking for the translation. I'm asking in the process, who is the bottleneck? Operations, exactly. Thank you very much. So operations is the bottleneck, but why is the bottleneck? Is it because they're incompetent? Is it because they're stupid?
Because they want things to be stable and no changes in product.
Right, so operations at some point has certain priorities. So the priority that has been told by management is stability over features. And so, but you also need to deploy the features that the developers are developing, right? Otherwise they're wasting their time. So the problem is not really in operations. It is a symptom, but it's not the actual source of the problem. The problem is with the process. Why? Because development is iterating super fast every week, whereas operations has a really long-term plan, and they're working with waterfall. So you're mixing Scrum with waterfall. And what I've heard before is that they call it Scrumfall. It's a terrible name, but it's a reality in the industry. It's terrible. And so the process is broken. The system is broken. And so for you to be able to get rid of this bottleneck, what do? No, you don't kill operations, dude. No. You don't do that. You need to change the process. You need to change the way into how operations is working around the systems, right? Does it make sense? Does it make sense that the system is broken because we're trying to merge an agile methodology with something that is simply obsolete and that doesn't work and that is not as fast as it should be? So, has anybody heard of the wall of confusion problem? Basically, yes. It means that when you have the developer finishing their feature and they package it, right, in the form of a WAR file, of a zip file, of whatever you want, they have this deployable artifact, and what they do, all right, I'm done with it, and they throw it over the wall of confusion to the operator, but the operator has, as my friends here said, they have the priority to keep the system stable. And how do I know that this developer made something that is high quality and that is not going to break production? And so you take a leap of faith as an operator and you deploy the artifact to production, and then boom, systems go down because there was a bug somewhere. You don't know where, but you're so brave, you love your job so much that you go into production and you start debugging the application. You're not a Java developer. You've barely written any line of code in your life. However, you're still going there because you like your job, but it's not really your responsibility, is it? You didn't write the code. Why should be you the one fixing someone else's code that is running in production? Do you see how the system is broken? And it's 2018 and companies still do this over and over and over again. The system is just not working. So how do we fix this wall of confusion? Just need to bring the wall down, right? Say what? Firewalls, that's another option. Could be, I don't know, I've never seen that, but let's try it. I mean, it's a free world. Right, so growing up with my grandma, she had chicken in the backyard. And of course, at some point they were old enough so that she would make soup with them. But when they were really, really little, you don't know what you're going to get, if it's going to be a rooster or if it's going to be a hen, if it's going to be a boy or a girl. And what happens is when the two of them grow to be roosters, it can get really, really conflicted. As in, they start fighting each other all the time, and they start fighting for territory. And it's like a 2 by 3 meters backyard, you know, so there's not a lot of territory for them to actually fight for. So what my grandma would do is to tie the legs with a rope. And in the beginning, they would really be aggressive towards each other, but at some point, in the same day, they would settle down. And then they would just be friends. She would keep them for like 3 days like that, and then release the cord, and finally the roosters were friends. So, I'm pretty sure that you can see what is coming. You put the developers and the operations in the same room, so that they start talking. And this is a beautiful thing, because when the operations and the developers are in separate rooms, floors, buildings, it's very, very easy for emails to just go back and forth. Hey, hello, Jima, how are you doing? I just sent you the deployable artifact so that you can deploy the version 1.7 of the web application. Thank you. And then you're waiting for Jima to get back to you, and it's 3 days, and I was like, hey, Jima, how is it going? Did you release the application already? And Jima is not coming back to you. And you're like, okay, you were gonna send him a message on Slack, hey, Jima, how is it going? Can you please deploy the application? And now, but at this time, you are already getting pissed. You're getting more angry and angry and angry, because your project manager is like, hey, did you deploy already? Did you deploy already? But it doesn't depend on you. It's the operation guys that is holding you back. But you don't know what is going on because he's not answering your emails. So you go all the way there, right? It's like on the next building. It's like, hey, hello, how's it going, man? I sent you an email like a couple of weeks ago. You haven't answered. What's up? Oh yeah, sorry, I've been super busy, bro. But look, boom, deployed. Oh my God, like it took you literally 5 minutes to get the thing deployed, whereas with the email you were waiting for 2 weeks already. So once you put 2 people in the same room, communication is more effective. This is like a fact. And the other thing is that blaming and back-talking becomes even harder, right? Because if operations is there and developers are there, it's very easy for me to gather with the developers and say, nah, operation people, they're so incompetent, they're so stupid, they don't know what they're doing, we should definitely fire the whole department. And operations is the same. Oh, the developers, they're breaking our platform the whole time, they don't know what they do, they want to gain root access to my servers, but I will never let them, ha ha ha. They don't even know what an SSH key is, ha ha ha, they're so stupid, right? So as soon as you put them together, the backtalk decreases. It doesn't finish, it doesn't disappear, right? At some point the operators are going to grab beers, the developers are going to grab beers, and they're probably going to trash talk about each other. But this is going to decrease, and you're going to create a much more effective dynamic between your different teams. So let me tell you, if you want to incorporate strategy, if you want to incorporate DevOps into your culture, into your company, you cannot just do the DevOps, right? Some companies say, oh, we're looking for a DevOps engineer because we're going to start doing DevOps at our company. So you hire a guy that containerizes your application. I don't know if we have anybody that has experience containerizing a Node.js application. Can you raise your hands? Or any other web application. How long can it take you to containerize a web application? Yeah, it's a very simple application. Let's say that it's a web application that you developed with your team a week ago, has all the dependencies, everything is 12-factor application, is very cloud native. How long would it take you to containerize this application?
To containerize our application, it's long between 1 or 2 weeks, but it's a one-time.
It's a one-time process, right?
One-time process, yes.
So 1 to 2 weeks. Can anybody do it in 1 week? Can anybody do it in 3 days? Can anybody do it in 2 days?
It very depends on the application.
The easiest of the application that you can think, a hello world in Golang. 1 day. Let's say we can take 1 day, right? We hire an expert that is a cloud native expert person that has done it 1,000 times with Go, with Java, with Rails, with Python, with everything. This person understands how to containerize applications. So you hire these DevOps guys. And he comes, he containerizes your application, and he sort of like puts this container in production. Are you a DevOps company now? Can you call? No, right? Okay, another example. We go to Cuba, right? We go to the definition by nature of Chungachanga. We go to Cuba. And let's say that I go there with money, and they have some products that I want to buy. And so I start buying their products to the local people with money. And then This money, they use it to buy other stuff from other people, and the cash starts flowing. Is Cuba now capitalist? Right? It obviously it isn't, but somehow companies is like, oh yeah, we have a container running in production. We are DevOps. We do DevOps. No, you're using some sort of DevOps technologies. Yes, this is true. However, this is not how you do DevOps. It is not only about the technology. It's also about the process. It's also about the culture of the company. And adopting DevOps doesn't mean that you start containerizing your applications using Kubernetes or Mesos or Nomad or Swarm or whatever, and you go to Amazon and you go to Google Cloud, and now you're DevOps. Doesn't mean anything. Nothing at all. Unless you're doing the things right with the right process, the right communication strategies, sharing culture, non-blaming culture, then you're not doing DevOps. I'm really sorry. So you want to adapt DevOps into your culture. I'm going to tell you how this is going to go. First, a little bit of story. Does anybody know who this guy is? Who? No? Yes. Oh my God. Yes, we have a historian among us. Thank you very much. So for those who don't know, Simón Bolívar, badass, right? So most of you know that Latin America was under the control of the Spanish Empire for 400 plus years. And at some point, Simón Bolívar came to Europe. He got married and then he went on honeymoon with his wife to spend a couple of weeks in Europe. And during that time, Spain, Napoleon goes to the king of Spain and says, "Hey, yo, dude, I want to go and like invade Portugal. Is it cool if I go through Spain?" And the king of Spain was like, how do I say no to Napoleon? I mean, sure, man. I mean, be my guest. Just break a leg, have fun. So Napoleon goes and he invades Portugal. And then on the way back, he was like, "Oh wait, I'm gonna stay." So he's like, "You know what? This whole land now belongs to France, and I'm gonna name my brother King of Spain." And they were like, they couldn't really do a lot, right? Because Napoleon was so powerful. And so the Spaniards, they didn't like this. So the people themselves, they created a guerrilla, sort of. And they said, okay, we're the independent people, and we're going to free Spain from the French Empire. Because we must be free. We deserve freedom. How beautiful, okay? So they did that, and they freed Spain, and they kicked the French out, right? Now, when Bolívar was in Europe, he saw this whole thing. And he was like, hold on one second. If the Spaniards can do that, so can we. So he goes back to Latin America, he goes to Venezuela specifically. The guys, you will not believe what I just saw. In Spain, it was invaded by France, and then the Spaniards got pissed, and they kicked them out of there. And so I think that we can do the same with the Spaniards, you know? We can just kick the Spaniards out of Latin America. And they're like, oh, how cute. Simon, fuck off, just go away. People actually were happy with the current status of things, with the current state of affairs. They were like, you know what? We are being stripped from our resources. They're stealing our gold. They're stealing our food. They're kicking us out of our houses. They're killing our people. They're stealing our culture, our language, our religion, our traditions. But, you know, it works. You know, we have food, shelter. What else can you ask for? And Simon was like, freedom, maybe? Like happiness, be able to do whatever we want to do, you know, as a country, as people. So there was a lot of skepticism around free Latin America. But Simón Bolívar was stubborn. He was like, no, we need to do this. So he organized himself along with different friends. And then there was they tried to kill one of the generals in Caracas. But before the plan went through, somebody rat them out. And they captured Simón Bolívar while he was sleeping. And they were going to kill him. But some friends rescued him and said, dude, you need to get out of here. So they sent him to Jamaica. And then after a couple of years, he came back. And then the revolution started again in Caracas. And he freed Venezuela. And he moved to Colombia. He freed Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia. And the whole thing just couldn't be stopped anymore. But it started with him just saying, hey, you know what, maybe, just maybe, we can be free. So we were, you can see here, these are called the criollos, Creoles, the local people, and we didn't have really guns, just had machetes and sticks. And the Spaniards, of course, they did have guns with gunpowder and everything. But Simón Bolívar was a real strategist. As a military mind, he was super clever, really, really clever, so he made it work. So we managed to win the war without any sort of gunpowder guns, only machetes and sticks. Think about this back in the 18th century. This is really, really crazy. So if you want to free your country, or you want to introduce DevOps technologies into your company, or not even DevOps, just any sort of change. You want to start moving away from Maven into Git. You want to start moving away from Scrum, Waterfall into Scrum, or from Scrum into Kanban, or from Kanban into anything else. You cannot just come to the whole company, 10,000 people, and say, okay, today we move from Maven to Git. It doesn't work like that, my friend. So if you are asking, you're in this company and you're stuck in a process where you cannot really move forward with operations and you want to do DevOps because you want to try something, you have seen the talk, you have seen the experience of different people, you have heard of other companies adopting these things and it's working for them, and you're wondering, yeah, but we have all these deadlines and we have these things, are we still on time? The answer is yes, but it depends. And you need to have the right strategy for that. So I'm going to show you real quick. Has anybody seen this video about leadership? It's okay. I'm just going to voice over it real quick. I'm also going to mute it because it's actually very easy to understand. It's so primitive. However, people do not understand these things somehow. So I'm going to help you guys see it today so that you can see what it means to be a leader. Because in the end, if you want to drive change within your company, you need to be a leader. So what we see here is we have a dude that is dancing like an idiot at a festival, and he's having a lot of fun, but he's by himself, right? But suddenly, somebody else joins him, and now it's two idiots dancing like idiots in the middle of a festival. They're just being ridiculous here, but they're having fun, right? But somehow it's just the two of them. But now watch this. Just wait for a couple of seconds, and then you will see what true leadership means. First, you need to be aggressive. You need to not care too much. You need to be able to make a fool out of yourself, not be shy. And then slowly, people are going to be joining you. You see, before it was him by himself, the white dude, and then the other fat kid, and now there's three of them dancing. And look. Now, people are looking at them. You see down here, people are looking there, and this dude over here on the left is also looking at them. It's like, oh, there you go, oh, look, and suddenly 2 more people. Oh, and now 3 more people. What's going on? What happened? Before it was just him. Before it was just him by himself, dancing like an idiot. This is what happens with leadership, and this is what happens when you want to introduce change into your company. In the beginning, you're going to look like an idiot, and people are going to laugh at you. Oh, look at him trying to do microservices. Oh, look at him trying to use Docker. Look at him trying to use virtual machines when he could be using bare metal. What is wrong with bare metals and like root, chroot or something? You know, people will always find a reason to hate on what you're doing and to be skeptical about it. And you want to know why? Because we're human, and we don't like change. We don't like change at all. Once we have settled in a very nice and comfortable spot, we don't want nothing to do with change. Because change means stress. Change means having to learn something new, getting out of your comfort zone. And getting out of your comfort zone, sometimes it's okay, but only if it is triggered by something else. But normally it's not us who are putting us out of the comfort zone. Some people say, yeah, I like to put myself out of my comfort zone. These are people that are natural leaders. Oh, I travel around the world and I learn new languages because I like to get out of my comfort zone. Or I do public speaking because I like to get out of my comfort zone. Stuff like this. These are people that are leaders, but most of us do not feel that need. It's more like, oh no, I don't want to change jobs. I mean, it's a pretty crappy job, but it's paying the bills. So I think I'm just going to stay here for a couple more years. This is the natural feeling or the natural instinct for a human being, right? And so whenever you come to a company and you say, okay guys, we're ditching the whole thing, we're doing DevOps, people are going to resist, and people are going to be skeptical, and people are going to be like, this is the 10th change that management has been trying to introduce. It's coming from top level. We do not want it. Why do we need to change, you know? But in reality, what is happening is that you're triggering a natural instinct in people. So you cannot just come to your company and suddenly drive this big change. It's going to take a lot of effort, and most likely you are going to fail. You need a lot of coaching, and you need to do it step by step. So a strategy that I have been seeing working, like actually working in the market, is to start with baby steps. You take one team, and this team is going to be a mixed team. You're going to take somebody from ops, somebody from dev, maybe a designer, I don't know, whatever you want. And you're going to start working in small iterations. You're going to take a project that has a really small scope, that has not a lot of business impact or value, because for the first iterations, you don't need it to be. It doesn't need to be the most important application running in production, in containers, in Kubernetes, in the cloud. It doesn't need to be like that. Take a really small application, an API, a documentation application, whatever that is, and be ready to fail. Because most of the time, you're not gonna get it right on the first go, right? People think, oh, we need to do this and we need to do it right the very first time. No, chill. Take it easy. Embrace failure. You know, a colleague of mine was saying, we're talking about container scheduling applications. He said, look, I'm not an expert on any of these technologies. However, we've been trying to do it in the other company for 2 years, so I know how not to do it, right? So this is him learning from failure. Failure is not a bad thing. It's really, really good if you're looking from the bright side of things, which is what you should be doing, right? So you take a team, your multidisciplinary team, you take a small project, small iterations, set a very clear scope and really, really low expectations and really small scope. Don't try to make it super complicated with like, okay, in a CI/CD pipeline and quality tests and whatnot. Take it easy. Take it really, really easy, POC, MVP, and then make it something nice, right? So to summarize a little bit of what we're talking about so far is we need to adjust our expectations, as I was saying just now. We need to assume that we know nothing, and that if we're gonna try this thing for the very first time, it might not work, and that is okay. Once you start setting the foundation for the upcoming work, what is gonna happen is that people are gonna be looking at you first with skepticism. Oh, look at the new dream team, ha ha ha, the dream team, they believe that they're so badass. And then, when they actually start deploying every Friday, and then every day, and then several times a day, then people are going to come to your team and ask, hey, that thing that you're doing, that automation thing, how are you guys doing it? People are going to start coming curious, just like we saw with the dancing video. First it was the one kid, and then the other one, and then 3, and then 5, and then 10. Just like that is going to happen in your company. You can see that's inception. You start with a small one, and people are going to be laughing at you, pointing fingers, and suddenly they will want to join. Because now you want to join. It's all about leadership, right? Embrace failure, we talked about that. Another thing that we see is people blaming each other all the time, and this is a really toxic environment for any company. And it's what we were talking about with the wall of confusion, right? It's very easy to start trash talking over the other department because we don't see these people. If you're operations and I'm a developer and I'm sitting across you on the same desk, it's way harder for me to start trash talking on you. Oh, his code is pretty bad, or oh, look at that, he's so buggy, like, oh, he didn't write unit tests. Dude, you suck, you're a bad developer, or oh, you suck, you're a bad operator. It's really harder if you're sitting in front of each other. But if you're sitting somewhere else, right? You're out of sight, out of mind, out of the heart. I don't feel it. You need to ditch waterfall like right now. Of course, come up with a plan before you do that, but for sure you need to make it happen. You need to lead by example, as I was saying. It's all about the leadership, right? If you're not ready, leadership doesn't mean only to force people into doing things, but also into inspiring people. Make them care. Don't just give them instructions, because as we were talking about before with waterfall, when you're a developer on the level 3 and all the decisions are made on the top management down, it's not really fun to work with these things, right? You're just being told what to do. But if you involve the person into the decision-making process, then you're engaging with them. You're picking their brains, and people take ownership. Because it's not the product that the manager made me build, it's the product that I'm building with my team. And this is also leadership. So you need to really think about how you're going to approach these things. And you need to understand also the impact of the cultural changes. Imagine that tomorrow we come to Russia and we say, okay, from now on, people are going to start handshaking with gloves on. Some people are going to be like, no, whatever, what are you doing? This is not. Some people are going to be like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care. So it's you can see it as a minimal change, but it has a great impact. And so when you're introducing a new way of working in your company, you're like, yeah, sure, we're going to start doing 2-week sprints, and we're going to be doing Agile, and we're going to be doing DevOps, whatever. For you in your head is very straightforward. But changing the way that people work is really, really hard. Do not underestimate this, and I cannot remark it, I cannot highlight it enough. Do not underestimate the challenges that changing the culture of a company implies, because it's really, really hard. It's the hardest thing of all. Because when you introduce a new technology, it's very easy to read the manual. If you have a smart engineer, they're going to read the README, and in 5 minutes they know already everything about the technology. This is not the main challenge. It's changing the way that people work with this technology, because they're used to a different dynamic. And once you change the dynamic, people struggle. This is where the struggle is the most. So do not underestimate that. With that, we're going to be moving into questions. Did I spell that right? I guess yes. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to take it. I spelled it right. Thank you. So the microphone is going to start going around, but also we have, what is it called? Slido. And if I got this right, we're on the whole one. And type your question. So you can just go here, because I know that most of you are shy to speak up. You can just type your questions, and I'm going to read them from here, and then we can see your question. I'm going to start. I'm going to be a leader. So is that your real hair?
Видимо, спич был настолько интересен, что люди заслушались и не успели написать вопросы в слайды или задать. Да, друзья, если у кого-то есть вопросы, смело можете поднимать, пожалуйста. Вот, Евгений, прошу.
Hello, Carlos.
Hello. The answer is yes, this is my real hair.
Thank you for a really interesting talk. But as I think a real bottleneck to DevOps process, it's not DevOps progress itself. It's a software license.
What, sorry?
Real problem is not DevOps process. Real problem is a software license.
Software licenses?
As is, without any responsible between our users. Look like a new version of Gmail, and this company use DevOps process in whole company, but this process provocate to make changes for changes, not for goals and not for value to users.
Yeah.
Their talk, it's values for users, but in real it's not.
Right. So this is a common problem with management, and you're right. The bottleneck is not entirely on the operational side of things. So to paraphrase what he said, is basically that sometimes the bottleneck can also be in the decision the management is making, as in deciding that the users need a feature and they push it down. And in reality, this isn't what people needed. That was not the main priority, right? So this can also become a bottleneck, because suddenly you're stressing your team and you're changing focus and shifting gears. And this context switching can be very harmful for everybody. So this is also part of the problem. Yes, thank you. The bottleneck is not only in operations, of course. It's also a cultural thing that can come from management, or that it can come from the people at the bottom as well. Normally, it's the whole thing together, right? It's like if you think in some working companies, they say, oh, we are really bad employees because we have a bad manager. Yeah, this is true. But sometimes the manager turns bad because they're bad employees. And then you realize when you come as a third party, it's like, oh, actually the whole dynamic is pretty bad, and you need to reshuffle the whole thing. So yes. So where do I get matches and sticks, or what is that equivalent? The equivalent for the 21st century in the IT world would be to gain root access and delete all their accounts, but I would not encourage you to do that. Basically, what you need to do, if you are a decision maker, get your team on board and discuss it with them, make them care, make them see how this can be. And the problem also can be, this can be a big challenge because at this point, probably your team is highly demotivated. They don't want to do anything anymore. They don't want any more change because there have been so many tries from management to make things work, but management just does not understand engineering. So they're like, man, if you give me one more change in this company, I quit. So it's going to be really hard to pick them up. It's up to you to be really a people's person, understand your people, connect, bond with them before you can even suggest that we should try something else. And when you bring them on board, listen to them. Don't just, we're going to do this, we're going to go to AWS, or we're going to go to GCP or whatever. Say, hey guys, I think that it would be awesome if we could join the cloud, if we could move this project to the cloud. There's a lot of value. Which cloud do you think that we should move to? And shout, okay, you're going to investigate this cloud, and I'm going to investigate that one, and we're going to investigate the one. We're going to sit together and come up with the best findings, and then we're going to make a decision. Involve the people. So this would be your sticks and machetes of the 21st century if you're trying to drive change in your company. If you're an employee and you do not have decision-making power, bear in mind that most of us lack the skills to properly communicate business value. We understand technology and we understand how awesome it is, but most of us, do not understand the impact that it can have on the business. As an example, once I came to this, I was working this project and I understood that what we were trying to do with SQL wouldn't work, so it would have been best to use something like MongoDB. And so I was the lead engineer and I recommended to the CTO that we would make the decision to integrate Mongo. And we did, but I didn't understand the business impact. In the end, it was a good decision, but I had no idea about the numbers. In the end, of course, the project that was supposed to be 2 weeks took 2 months, and the company has to pay for that. And the manager wasn't super happy about it. So if we understand business, if we understand numbers, if we just take 5 minutes to understand what is the business impact, then it's much more easy for us to convince management to introduce a change. So this would be your tool if you're not a decision maker. Is it dangerous to dance without knowing why? No, it isn't. What if the wall is not real? Sometimes wall is time. People work in company, their age. I do not understand this question. Can you please elaborate? What if the wall is not real? Sometimes wall is time. Something, tell me something. What? Somehow, question disappeared. What if the wall is not real? What if I'm not real? I'm going to move on to the next question because I don't understand this one. Sorry, please find me on the question corner and we can talk about it more closely. Does DevOps have recommendations of how to work with product requirements, or is it out of scope? No, not at all actually. So the idea of DevOps is that you start treating your infrastructure also as if it was a business unit, as if it was an actual product that you're developing, because it is. It's not just the servers that you set up. No, hold on. There is some infrastructure that needs to go to a network and storage and everything, this compute and everything else. So you also need to set up, treat it as if it was one more product in your company, as it was the front end, the back end, the whatever, the back office, anything like that. Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Hi, Carlos.
Hello.
What if the operation is a real bottleneck, but this big wall is made by security requirements? It's a big company, and
Oh yeah.
what to do?
Oh my God. Yes. So this is so a little bit of context. There is companies where you can just take an application and put it through a CI/CD pipeline, right? So you git push, and then it gets picked up by some agent, let's say GitLab CI or Jenkins, whatever you want, and then it builds it, then it runs the tests, and then it deploys to staging, runs some integration tests, and then it deploys to production automatically. So from git commit to production is like 5 minutes. This is the context. However, there's some companies that have some security requirements. It's like, oh, before you deploy to staging, you need to sign a form authorizing that you need to do this manually, and where is it going to be running, at what time is it going to happen. There is a lot of bureaucracy going around it, and the answer to your question is there is no easy way around it. You need to automate as much as you can on all the different areas, and once you need to corner the bottleneck, right? So if there is a form that needs to be signed before every release, you automate everything else, and at the end of, say, 4 to 6 iterations, you take this to upper management. Say, look, this section that is manual and that we cannot automate is holding us back from delivering value more often, and we're losing this much money because the engineers are spending this much time, which translates into this much money, which at the end of the year is 2 million euros. And then the management is like, oh well, okay, yeah, this money we definitely need to save, and then management is going to help you to go around these things. There is always a way around, but at first you need to do it manually, but you need to highlight it, clean everything else, so you can really spot the dirt, and then you show the dirt to management. Does it answer your question?
So I need to show that they use the money.
Yes, yes. This is the only way that business people talk. Not all of them, but most of them do not understand technology. They understand in terms of money. If you don't talk with numbers, they're like, yeah, this is some engineer wanting to do something fun, but this is not fun, this is money, bro. So, yeah, it's business.
Друзья, есть еще вопросы из зала? Может быть, у нас еще 5 минут есть для общения вместе с Карлосом. А в слайде еще имеются вопросы, да? Есть. Тогда next question in slide.
Yes. So the next question is how to make DevOps work with SOX or GDPR compliance. This is a very easy to answer question. If your product has properly defined policies for GDPR, it has nothing to do with your CI/CD pipeline or your automation process, right? It's more about how you develop your application and how do you store the data. And so I don't understand how this can get on the way. I don't understand how your DevOps culture can get on the way of that, because it has nothing to do with the data that you're storing, but more about the process around how you develop your application and your infrastructure. Does that answer your question? I'm going to assume no, so you can go to the corner and ask more closely.
Друзья, еще вопросы? Да, у нас есть еще один человек. Пожалуйста, прошу.
Еще человек, чувак.
Hello. My question is when the operations is actually in another company.
Say what?
Operations team is in another company.
Okay.
So it's the software product which the actual deploys is done by another team in another company.
Yes.
Any hints?
Yes. So thank you for this question. It's a very, I like this question because I felt the pain personally. And so to paraphrase what he said is, how about when you are only a software development company and the operations is run by a third party, by a different company? And the answer is, this doesn't work unless the third party provides you with a platform that allows you to deploy often and that gives you more control over the infrastructure. So a multi-tenant kind of approach. But the truth is that most of these companies, they're gatekeepers. They don't want to give a lot of access to the developers. It's more like, yeah, throw me your deployable unit and I'll deploy for you. This does not work. You need to change it. You just need to find a different provider. You need to consider what are the implications of that, and you need to figure out if maybe there is a provider that can give you actually a platform that you can do that. For example, to give you an example, a realistic example, there is a company in the Netherlands that used to have this model, and they understood that it was the bottleneck because, of course, the developers of the customers would give them Word files to deploy the Java applications into their JBoss stuff, and it would take like weeks for them to deploy. And so now what they're doing is adopting Kubernetes, and they're giving Kubernetes namespaces to the customers, and now the customer has access to all of the platform. So the company is enabling customers, the software development companies, to deploy as often and as much as they want. So a company, an operations company that is gatekeeping their infrastructure is only getting on the way of you delivering value to your customers. So consider how much of a bottleneck you want it to be in for how long, and this as soon as possible. That's what I would recommend. Yes?
That's all. Thank you very much for your speech. This present and this was to you. And you can go to the cover. Да, друзья, больше аплодисментов. Карлос Леон, первый кино,
Thank you so much for being amazing.
I'll see you guys around. Yeah, please don't be shy. You can find me in the corner, and throughout the day, I'm going to be here tomorrow as well. We can just talk. You don't need to only come and ask me questions. You have stories to share, war stories, you want to complain, just come to me, let's talk. Yeah? See you around.